Morning and good afternoon, everyone. We'll give one more minute to allow folks to join today. My name is Jessica from Exxat. I'm an account manager. Joining me today are two of my colleagues, Ami and Tanmay. Tanmay will be leading our presentation for today for part 2 of 15 student workflow module.
In this session, in this webinar, we'll take a closer look into student workflow and a student module. So this is the list of all the features right now we have under student module. We will look into each and every feature in details. I have a slide for how these features are accessible to the students, and then how you can set up the different types of information like attestations, announcement, tags for your students. So we'll look into all those functionalities. So the first topic of our webinar is the student setup. Now, let's quickly understand how you can manage the basic information for your student. So as a program administrator, you can add or manage student identifying information such as cohort, enrollment term or the graduation term, student categories, as well as the campus details. And then also system allows you to manage the announcements, resources, attestations. You can also decide what all information you want to share it with your students using this functionality. So the first option under student setup is the cohort. So when you click on a student module of Exxat Prism, there is a horizontal menu bar at the top, and then using setup sections, you can access the list of all these features. So if you want to add a new cohort into the system, on the right side of the screen, there is a add cohort option. You just need to click on that, and this is how you can provide the name to your new cohort. So you can simply add the cohort name. If you want to uh, divide that cohort into different groups, this is the place to add a different group. So this is useful for the nursing program. If they want to add a multiple tracks, so they can make the use of this group section. And once you're done with this information, you just need to click on save. So this is how you can add a new cohort into the system. Right below the cohort on the left side, there is a enrollment and then the graduation term. Now this is nothing but the enrollment semester for your students. In order to add a enrollment term, there is a pencil sign on the right side of the screen, and this is how you can provide the enrollment term. There is a additional section which also help you to capture the enrollment date for your student, and then you just need to click on save to house this information. Some of the accrediting bodies require students data along with their enrollment and graduation semester, and then this is the best place to house that information. And I'll also show you how you can associate this information with your student profile. Then we do have a student category functionality. So first, let's discuss what is category. So as a program administrator, you have options to group your students into different categories, into different buckets. Let's say if there is a group of students who are interested in pediatric specialization, or a group of students who understand the Spanish language or any foreign language, that kind of different categories you can add, and then you can associate those categories with your students. This is how you can add one or multiple category into the system. And similar to category, we do have a tag functionality. I also have the slides on tag functionality, and then the major difference between tags and categories, that whatever category you are going to associate with your student profile, they can check that, but the tag functionality is completely for your internal use. So during our tag slide, I'll show you how you can add the tags and then how you can associate that information. Then the last section under student organization is the campus. So if you have more than one campus, then program administrator can add the list of all the campuses and then create the association under campus section. So this is how you can provide the name of those campus, and then you just need to click on save. So this is how you can manage the this different fields like cohort, enrollment and graduation term, student category and campus. And now let's quickly discuss how you can associate this information with your student's profile. So when you click on a student profile, uh, there is a different field available under their profile page. So under academic section, actually you can find the fields like enrollment, graduation, campus, or the student category option. You just need to click on this pencil sign, and then you can associate all those values which you have added under student setup section. Also, on the basis of these different parameters like cohort, group, enrollment term, and graduation term, you can also filter out the data. So we do have this funnel sign filter option for the program administrator. Let's say if you just want to check the list of all the students who started their program in fall 2024. So you can apply those filters, and this is how you can drill down the student information, student data. So this is about the student organization. Now, let me take a quick pause to understand if you have any question on these 5 fields.
I just wanted to add, if you do have a student data feed integration going on with Exec, this happens commonly for larger universities. You may not have to add that cohort to just start, but that's something you'll want to check with the data feed that we have going on. So you can check in with your account managers or your IT there that's helping us.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that. Now, our next topic is adding and inviting students to the system. So once you add a new cohort, you also need to add a students so that they can build their portfolio, they can access the different functionality of the system. And there are 2 different ways to add a student. First is you can add 1 student at a time, and then we do have a bulk import and entire cohort option. So let's first quickly discuss how you can add 1 student at a time. So when you click on a student module, the default landing page is the student tab. And on this page, on the right side of the screen, there is a add student functionality. When you click on this add student option, this is the different fields in which you can provide the data. Only few fields are mandatory, like the first name of the student, their last name, school email address, cohort related information. So you can provide all this information, and then you just need to click on save. Other information, other data you can always associate once you add that student into the system, but these 4 fields are mandatory while adding a student into the system. um, Then, in case if you want to proceed with the bulk import option, let's say if you have a class of 2027 and if you want to import all the student from that cohort, then under student setup, there is a bulk import functionality. On the right side of the screen, there is a plus sign which will help you to download the template, and then you can proceed with the import part. So it's a 3-step process. When you click on that plus sign, first page is instructions. You can check all the instructions, best practices, and then you can download this template, which is a Excel file format. And this is how it look like. So you can provide the again first student first name, their last name, email address related information, and then you just need to store this template on your local machine, local device. And with the help of step number 2, which is upload and analyze process, upload and analyze step, this is where you can upload the template. Now, uh, if your school or the programs are using single sign-on SSO configuration, then make sure you're also adding that SSO key in that template. So once you have all this information, you just need to provide the title for that import, and then you can upload that file here. Step number 3 in this process is the review part. So if there are any warning or any error, this is where you can check that. Let's say if the student email address or the format of that email address is incorrect, or if there is any mistake in a cohort name, that information you can access with the help of errors and warning. You can update that information in the same Excel sheet, and then you can re-upload that file. Once you click on import on the right side of the screen, system will help you to import all that information into the system. And this is how you can find the status successful. This is how you can add a student. Now once you add a student, the next step is inviting them to access the system. So in order to invite your student under same section, under setup section, there is a invite student functionality. And on this page, actually, you can find a list of all the students who are there in a system. You can select one or multiple students with the help of this checkbox, and then you just need to click on invite student option. Uh, Again, here point to be noted is for your SSO key. So if you have a SSO setup, single sign-on setup, so just cross verify the SSO key in this table, and then you can send out those invitations to your students. Uh, this is a three-step process where you can find a list of all the students. You can cross-verify their details. You can select a template as well. So this is the standard template which is provided by Exxat. But if you have your own template, so you can set up that email template as well, and make sure you're adding the invitation link in that template if you want to proceed with the customized email, because this is the link which basically help your student to activate their account, and then they can proceed with the um, you know further steps. Step number three in this process is where you can decide if you want to send out that email right away or you want to schedule that email for a specific date and time. And once you click on send, your students will receive those email on their registered email address, and then they can set up their credentials. So as an program administrator, this is how you can add a student, one student at a time, or you can proceed with the bulk input, as well as you can invite your students to access the Exxat Prism platform. So let's take a quick pause if you have any questions on adding and inviting students.
There is one question from Holly. The SSO key is their email address.
Not necessarily, Holly. So it's up to what your IT has set up as the SSO key. So it can be an email address, it can be a coding. It's up to what your school has configured for SSO, single sign-on. Good question. So yes, you'll want to check with your IT on that. For anybody searching what their SSO key is. In the system, if you've already added prior students for your SSO key and you're trying to figure it out for future, you can usually see that within the student's profile section on the school admin side. I don't see any other questions at this time. Go ahead, Tanmay.
Thanks, Jessica. So let's continue with the student setup section. Now, next functionality under student setup is the announcement. First, quickly discuss what announcement is. So announcements are nothing but the different messages that school wants to share with their students. Let's say if you want to share a holiday related information with your students, or let's say any exam related notification, then you can make the use of this announcement section. In order to add the announcement, on the right side of the screen, there is a add announcement option. When you click on this, you can set up the announcement start date, announcement end date. There is options to add the title as well as the description. And then you also have options to decide if you want to share this message with all the students or with just a specific cohort. So if you uncheck this shared with all the cohort option, you can select a specific cohort from this drop down, as well as while setting up the announcement, there is a options to provide the attachment as well. So if you have any document that you want your students to check, this is where you can add the document. And this functionality, if you select these options, then you can also generate the email notification for your students. So whenever announcement goes live, they will receive all those emails on registered email address. So this is how, as a program administrator, you can set up the announcement. And now let's quickly check where your student can access this announcement on their dashboard. So this is the dashboard for your students, and then on the left side of the screen there is a message from school section, so they can actually check the total count of announcements. So right now we have 2 announcements, and this is how they can access that information. Next to the announcement, we have the resources section. Now, resources are nothing but the different types of help material that program administrator or school wants to share with their students. So you can share handbook, policies and procedures manual with your students, or if you want to share Exxat Prism help material with them, this is where you can add all those resources. In order to set up the resources, first you need to make sure that you have a proper category list in place. So this is how category list look like. Categories are nothing but the different folders which will help you to house those resources. And you can also add a new category, or you can update the existing category with the help of this pencil sign. And once you have a category in place, let's say here we have handbook, policies and procedure as an category, and under that category now you can add a new resources. So there is a add resources option on the right side of the screen. You just need to click on that, and then you can provide the name of that resources. If you want to associate any description with that resources, this is where you can add that. And then this option is very similar what we have checked for announcement. So you can share this resources with all the students or with just a specific cohort. Um, Now let's check where your students can find all those resources at their end. So again, on their dashboard, we have a separate tab called resources. And here you can check this integer value. So there are in total 12 resources which are added by the program administrator. Once your students click on this resources tab, on the left side of the screen, they can find a list of all the categories. So either they can view all the resources at once, or they can select a specific category, and then this is how they can access those resources. They do have options to filter out those resources, on basis of different media. So let's say if the students just want to check the document, or they just want to check the resources which are in video format, this is how they can apply that filter. Um, then right below the resources under setup section, there is a attestation functionality. Now you can have students to sign off on a statement, let's say on their profile statements or at the beginning of the placement. So this is the place to add all those attestations. So let's say if you just want your students to acknowledge that whatever information they have provided in their profile is accurate and true, that kind of attestations you can add into the system, and then your students can acknowledge to those attestations from their dashboard. So let's first quickly check how you can add the attestations, and then I'll show you how your students can respond or acknowledge to those attestations. So on the right side of the screen, there is a add attestation option, and this is how you can add a attestation. So you can add the title, content, and once you save this information, this is how attestations appears at a student end. So system supports two different types of attestation for your student, at profile level and at a course level. So if you have any, uh, you know, any statement related to their placement on which you need acknowledgement, you can set up that attestation at a course level. And this is how it look like. This is their placement page, and then they can find that attestation. They just need to click on I agree option, and then they can acknowledge to it. Similarly, profile level attestations can be checked on their dashboard. So this is the list of all the attestations that we have at a profile level. And your student as well as the program administrator have functionality to check the list of all the attestations, whether those are acknowledged or not, what was the date, and then the timestamp when student acknowledged to that attestation. So this is available with student as well as the program administrator. Then under setup section, there is a area of professional interest. So you can set up the different area of professional interest for your students, and then that they usually get the opportunity to select all these settings under their profile section. And then whenever they are sharing their profile link, their profile with the external stakeholder, let's say your clinical supervisor or your preceptor, they can also find the professional interest of that student. So this is how you can add one or multiple professional interest. You can also associate the clinical settings with that professional interest, and then it will be available at a student end. Then there is a additional profile details section. Now, if you have any additional questions or any specific question you would like your students to answer, this is the place to add all those questions, whether it is related to your placement or not, the any additional profile details. you can add under this section. So let me first quickly show you how you can add the questions, and then we'll check how your students can respond to those questionnaires. So when you click on add question option on the right side of the screen, this is where you can actually add the questions. So questions could be anything. Let's say if you want to know what are their goals for the placement, or what are their expectations from their CIs or from their preceptor, this is where you can add those questions. You do have options to share that questionnaire with all the cohorts, or you can you know share it with just a specific cohort. And then on the right side of the screen, you can also decide if you want to mark that question as an mandatory for your students, and then do you want to include that question in their profile link. Just for your information, student as well as the program administrator can share students profile link with the external stakeholders. And if you decided to include this question in their profile link, then external stakeholder or the clinicians can check those questions. This is how it look like once you add a question, and then you just need to click on save. Now this is how your students can respond to that questionnaire. So under their profile section, there is an option called additional profile details. Right now it is showing get started. That means the data is not yet uploaded by the student. So once they click on get started, this is how they can respond to that questionnaire. And the last functionality, which is there under setup section, is a student view. Now this option, this feature help program administrator to manage the different level of access rights for your student. As the students, they can access different information, and then they can complete the specific activities within their account. However, each program can decide what all information they want to restrict from their student. So this is the list of placement information as well as the student profile information, and then here you can decide if you want to share that information, or if you want your students to access that information or not. So the first option is housing and parking. This is linked with the site module of Exxat Prism. Under site module, there is an option to add the housing and parking information. And once you enable that option, your students can access that information with the help of Explore Clinical Location page. So this is how that page look like at a student site. They can find the list of all the location or the clinics which are associated with their program, and then they just need to click on that location name. And if you allow them to access that information, this is how it look like at their site. Then they can also add the clinical instructor or the preceptors from their end if you enable that option from student view section. So this is their placement page, and then on the right side of the screen there is a clinical instructor section. So when they click on a plus sign, they can find this drawer. They can provide the first name, last name, email address of the preceptor or the clinical instructor, and then they just need to click on save. So this is how they can add additional clinical instructor from their side. Then there is a section called other student placed here. So let's say if there are multiple students placed at the same clinic or at the same location, and then if you want your students to know who all are also completing the rotation at the same location, you can also enable that option. So for the student, for this placement, there are two other students also placed with this student, and then the students can check their name as well as the uh, email address. So this is the only information which we are sharing with the other student. They won't be able to access any placement related information. So let me take a quick pause again to understand if you have any question on the feature we have just covered.
Yeah, we do have some questions. Uh,
Mhm.
Um, Jessica, do you want to go ahead? Oh, okay. Can the attestations be mandatory for the students to check? Can we make the attestations mandatory? Um,
Jessica, you there? Okay, let me answer. See, attestations are not mandatory, but it will be available on their dashboard or under their placement screen. So, again, it's not a mandatory field for them, but they can also check the report if they have acknowledged to those attestations or not. So,
Okay. There's a question from Julie. Do students work in Exat regularly? If students are not there regularly, do they get an email notification for any task on Exat?
Uh, yes, I mean you can trigger few email notification for your student. We do have a email notification for placement functionality, for learning activities. Now, learning activities are nothing but the different types of forms and evaluation that needs to be submitted by your students during their rotation. So for that, we can always generate the email notification. Also, for the compliance part, if there are any documents which are in not approved status or in expired status, for that you can also generate the email notification. So yes, we do support email notification functionality to notify your student.
Yeah, it's for some pieces of the product, like as he mentioned. In announcements, you can check off to send an email when that triggers, as well as a wish list if you're using those features first.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes,
Thank
we
you.
can help. There are more questions if you want to take that up.
Yeah, for the announcements, will we be able to view if students have opened slash viewed the announcements? Unfortunately, I don't think there's a dashboard right now to see if it's been clicked by the student, but that's something we can definitely put into our product team for feedback. And then it says, is where they add CI, the clinical instructor, the same as adding the CI details form for a timesheet. This may be going into the learning activities piece, so we'll probably go over it a bit later, or we can answer your question via chat, as that's more specific. All right, if you want to continue, Tenwai.
All right, thanks, Jessica. So our next topic is a student view. So let's quickly discuss what all functionalities which are accessible to your student. So once they set up their account, they can perform multiple tasks, which includes, accessing announcements. They, as I mentioned, they can acknowledge to the test stations. They do have options to, build their profile, compliance document, help functionality is also there, so they can always reach out to the support team. And let's first quickly discuss about the profile section. When your student click on a profile option, the default landing page is the academics. Now this is a read-only page or the read-only section for your student, but whatever information which is associated by the program administrator, like enrollment term, graduation term, if there are any document which are shared by the school for that specific student, this is where they can find that. On the right side on this page, there is a associated staff and faculty option. So if there is any faculty or staff associated with that student as a clinical advisor or the academic advisor, this is where they can check that information. Um, Next to the academic, there is a profile section. So this sections basically help your students to build their portfolio into the system. Now there are different drawers available like demographic information. They can manage their personal contact data, address information. Similar to this, there is a summary section. So if they want to upload their profile summary, area of strength, area for improvement, this is how they can build their profile. Uh, this is where they can find the list of all the area of professional interest which are added by the program administrator or school. They can simply click on this pencil sign and then they can select their professional interest. And similar to this field, we do have some additional sections like education details, work experience, membership, all this informations your students can add next to each and every drawer. Either there is a plus sign, so if they want to add a new record, they can click on plus sign, or if they want to update the existing record, then they can click on this pencil sign. So this is how they can build their portfolio into the system. On their dashboard, they also have the compliance functionality. So your program may require your students to upload their compliance items, which includes health and immunization details, insurance, certification related details. So they can actually access this section and then they can upload all those documents from their side. So this is the list. This is how it look like. This is the list of all the compliance item for that student, and then they can also check the status for that document, whether those documents are in expired status or not approved. If those are already approved, this is how they can check that. This a specific compliance item, this is in get started status. That means the data is not yet uploaded by the student. So let's quickly check how your students can upload this compliance document from their side. So once they click on the status, uh, on the right side of the screen, they can check the guidelines. Now, these are the best practices that you can set up while setting up the compliance atom. And then there is a pencil sign which will help them to upload the document. They can set up the expiration date or the start date, and this is how they can submit all these documents to the school. As an program administrator, you can also share all these compliance documents to your external stakeholders, to your clinicians, or students do have that ability. But this needs to be decided while setting up that compliance item. So under compliance tab, we have a configuration, and then you can decide what all item you want to share with your clinicians. Then on their dashboard, there is a coursework section. Now, this is the place where students can find the list of all the courses in which they are enrolled. They can check the placement information, what is the current status of that placement. So current, upcoming, completed, these are nothing but the rotation status. And if they want to access the additional information for a specific course offering for a specific course, they can simply click on this course name. So this is the placement details section. At the top, they can check the name of that course, what is the current status of that placement. So this is the ongoing placement. Students can also check that they are, placed at Swedish Medical Center for the neurology setting. They can check the placement start date, placement end date, and then under placement details section, they can actually check the address related information for that location. Location contacts are nothing but the site coordinators who are associated with that student. Placement faculty, if there is any internal faculty assigned to the student for that placement, this is where they can check that. And next to the placement details, there is a course activities. Now this is the place where your students can find the list of all the forms, evaluation, patient log, timesheet, wish list, all that information they can access with the help of course activities. Now, forms are evaluations are nothing but the different types of feedback or the surveys that needs to be submitted by your student during their rotation. So for an example, for a PT school, we expect student to submit a PT student evaluation of a site, PT student evaluation of a clinical instruction. So this is where they can find. For OT domain, your student can submit their AOTA data form, CFA form, CFA feedback with the help of this screen. Similarly, for PA, nursing, or any other domain, if there are any forms where students are evaluating their preceptors or students are evaluating their site, they can access all those forms here. Right below that, there is a patient log section. So if you want your student to submit the patient log or a case log during their rotation, they can add all those logs with the help of this functionality. And then at the bottom of the page, there is a timesheet option. So you can also ask your students to submit the timesheet during their rotation. They can also check total number of hours logged by that student, total number of hours in approved status, in pending review status. So this is how they can check that statistics. And then the clinical instructor information that we have already discussed, so they can also add the clinical instructor with the help of this section. So this is how your students can access all that information at their end. Now, next topic is, as an program administrator, what all information is accessible to you, or how you can manage their profile. So when you click on a student module, The default landing page is the student tab where you can find a list of all the students added to the system. You can search a specific student with the help of this search box. So it's a global search. You can simply add a student name, student ID, or even if you, even if you have their email address, you just need to add that information in a search box, and then system will provide you all the possible searches, all the possible results. On the right side of the screen, there is a filter functionality. So this funnel option help you to, filter out the data for your student. If you need any data drill down, let's say, accessing student list by cohort, by enrollment term, or using student category, this is where you can apply all those filters. Right before that, there is a range tool. Now this edit column functionality help you to customize this table as per your requirement. This is a default view, but let's say if you don't want to check the status or the group column, you can simply remove those columns with the help of this range tool. And just for your information, this is not a sticky feature. So the moment you refresh your page, system will give you the default table. But this is very good functionality in case if you want to generate some kind of report, you can simply arrange those columns as per your requirement. So you don't need to, work on Excel sheet, or you don't need to manage that columns in your Excel file. And this is the option to export all this information in Excel file format. So whatever data available on your screen, you can access that data in Excel sheet as well. Now, when you click on a student name, this is how their profile page look like. So at the top, you can check the name of that student, their cohort related information, contact information such as their email address, their phone number, and then you can also check the last login details for that student. So this is where you can find all that information. Right below that, this is the list of different tabs which help you to manage their academics, their profile, compliance section. Um, if you just want to access the compliance item or the compliance document for that specific student, then this is the place to, check all those documents. We do have communication and then the intervention functionality. Now, let's say if you received any email from your student, or let's say if you receive a phone call, if you just want to house that information, log that details into the system, then you can make the use of this communication section for that specific student. Just for your information, whatever data you are going to add under communication or intervention, this is just for your internal use. Your students, they don't have access to these two tabs, communication and intervention. And then the coursework section where you can find a list of all the courses in which students are registered. And then the learning activities are nothing but the different types of forms, evaluation, patient log, and then what's the current status of those evaluations. So you can access all this information for a specific student with the help of this horizontal menu bar. Uh, then we do have a tag functionality. So if you remember, we discussed over student category. Similar to category, we also have a tag functionality. So right below the student name, there is a options to add and associate the tag. So when you click on this plus sign, this is how you can find a list of all the existing tag. You can also add up to 10 tags for a student under student module, and tags could be anything. Let's say if you just want to, create a tag for all those students who have employment offer. So you can add that tag and then you can associate all those students with that tag. On the basis of tags also, you can filter out the data. So student from scholarship background could be one of the example, or let's say student from rural area, that kind of different tags you can add, and then you can proceed with the data drill down. Once you select the tag, you just need to click on apply. And then whenever you find that student name, you can also check the tags which are associated with them. So next to the student name, you can check a symbol, and there you can find a list of all the tags. Um, at your end, you also have the view as a student functionality. So on the right side of the screen, when you click on this view as, you can access your student's profile, their dashboard, or whatever functionality accessible to them in a read only mode. So you don't have access or edit rights using this mode, but consider the scenario that your students are complaining that they are not able to access their placement data, or the learning activities, evaluations are not appearing at their end. So you can make the use of this view as functionality, and then you can cross verify those details from your side. Then next to the view as functionality, there is a share profile information. So this option is available with both student as well as the program administrator. So when you click on this, you can either share your student's profile on behalf of them, you can download their profile, and then there is a profile share history option. So you can find a list of all the recipient who received that specific student's profile link. While sharing a profile, you can also include their compliance document, and this is how that email look like. So your external stakeholders, site coordinators, or the clinicians, they will receive email from notification@exact.com. They just need to click on this link. It's a delegator link. They don't need any kind of credential or the password to access this information. And then once they click on this link, this is how they can check the student profile. So this is the site view, and if there are any information available under their profile section, like uh, summary of their profile, resume, education related details, they can access that. Under compliance sections, they can find a list of all the compliance items which which are decided by the school to share with the clinicians. They can also download all this document with the help of this option. So this is how they can access a student profile. And under their academic section for a program administrator, there are some additional options. So you can manage the program requirement as well. So first you need to set up all this program requirement under student setup section. And then with the help of this pencil sign, you can decide if all those program requirements are completed by your students or not. There is an option called associated staff and faculty. So in case if you want to associate a specific faculty as a faculty advisor or a clinical advisor for that student, this is where you can proceed with that association. So you can find a list of all the internal faculty, then you can decide the role for that advisor, and then you just need to click on save. So this is how you can manage their academic section. Then we do have an option for the program administrator to update your students cohort. So at a time you may need to change your student cohorts due to various reasons. Let's say if there is a change in their plan of study, or they are looking for leave of absence. So in that case, you want to move that cohort, that student from one cohort to another cohort. So now this functionality is available at a program administrator end. You just need to click on this update cohort option, and then it's a two-step process. So the first page help you to, it basically help you to check all the instructions. So while moving that student from one cohort to another cohort, what will be the impact on the various aspect of a student data? This is where you can check that. Once you click on next, you can select a new cohort for that student using this drop down. And then once the analysis is complete, you can also check total number of documents which are uploaded by the student that will be carried over to the new cohort. So this is where you can access all that information. And then you just need to click on update cohort. So this is how you can move student from one cohort to another cohort. Now for the program administrator, we also have functionality to delete that student from the system. But just for your information, when you are using this functionality, make sure you don't need that student anymore, because we don't have options to restore all that information once you proceed with the deletion. In case, consider that you just want to let's say block a specific student for a x number of duration. In that case, you can simply update their profile status. So right now it is showing as an active. You just need to click on pencil sign and then update to inactive, so they won't be able to access the system. But in case if you want to permanently delete that student from the system, then you can proceed with this delete option. So let me quickly show you the steps in deletion of the student. So this is where you can find the instructions and then the impact of deleting student. At the bottom of the drawer, you can also check the reason for that deletion. This is mandatory field because we do have a report on delete student functionality. So in future, if you just want to do the audit that who was the user who deleted that specific student, or what was the reason for the deletion, this is where you can check that. This is how you can check that. This is just a confirmation message, so you just need to replicate that integer value into this text area, and then you can click on proceed. So this is how you can delete a student. Recently, we have included a bulk update option for the program administrator. Now, this functionality basically help you to update the attribute for multiple student at the same time. So you can select up to 100 students, and then let's say if you want to update the status for around 50 to 60 student, you can select all those students, and then you just need to click on this status option. With the help of this drop down, you can find the list of all the lookup values. You can select that value, and then you can click on update. Similarly, if you want to update the enrollment term or the graduation term for the group of student, you can proceed with this functionality. Once you click on update, it's a confirmation message where you can check that are you sure that you want to update the profile status of 45 student to graduate. Once you replicate this number here, uh, you can find this bulk update message that it is completed successfully. So this is how you can proceed with the bulk update. Now, let me take a quick pause to understand if you have any questions on the student view, like what all functionalities are accessible to them, or as a program administrator, how you can manage their profile.
We do have a question, Tanmay. So
Mhm.
when a cohort graduate, does Exxat make the cohort inactive? Um, so can you
Okay,
explain the process of
okay.
when
Uh,
one
So,
so, yeah, go ahead, Jessica. Sorry.
so what exact doesn't necessarily mark them as graduated. The school can mark them as graduated typically. And in that case, inactive is a different one. Inactive is they don't use the system, or perhaps if they take a leave of absence, but you still want to track their record. We never want to delete their record unless they've never used the system at all. But we want to make sure that we're housing that so that you have a tracking mechanism in the past. So if you mark them as graduated in the system, it'll help make sure that, in the future, one, we know that they're done with the program. So either if we're currently using like approved service, for example, to review your compliance, then we know they're done and we don't have to continue with that. Or as we're doing calculating your counts in the future too for your contracts. Hope
And
this makes sense.
also, I just wanted to add, if you are using a SSO setup, so as far as they have access to your university portal, they can still access the Exxat Prism account.
that how long after a student is moved to graduate can they, oh, we already answered that. They can access the system.
Yes, as long as they have access to their school email that is used for our accounts, they'll be able to access the system.
Okay. And then do we restrict them to access if they are like marked as graduated?
So the students should still be able to view their records even if their mark is graduated.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. I don't see any other questions. We are answering some of the questions via chat because they are very relevant to a user. So we can move ahead, Tanmay.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Thanks, Jessica. So the next topic is the student and help center. So this is the last topic of our today's webinar. Now let's quickly discuss what all reports you have under student module. So when you click on a student module of Exxat Prism on this horizontal menu bar, there is a report section. And then this is the list of all the reports which we have for student section. Next to the report name, you can also check the description, what kind of information or data you can fetch with the help of that report. All these links are clickable. So let's say if you just want to access the student information, you can click on that, and this is how that report look like. So you can check the student name, their ID, their cohort related information, or whatever data associated with their profile you can access with the help of this report. There is a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom, so you can scroll to the right side and then you can check the data as well. This report also allows you to apply the different filters. You can customize this table as per your requirement with the help of this range tool, and then you can also export this report into Excel file format. So this is how you can generate the report. Similar to this, we do have a report on tag functionality. So you can find a list of all the tags which are there for your student section. And then on the right side of the screen, you can check the table where student names are there. And then whatever tags associated with that students, you can check that. So this is how you can access the tag report. And similar to this, we also have a report on attestation. So this is one of the type of graphical report. You can simply hover your mouse on this bars, and then you can check total number of students who already acknowledged to that attestation. Red sign, that means those attestations are pending at a student in, and then these are nothing but the different attestation list. So in total, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attestation, and then this is how you can check the uh, current status of your student attestations. Um, then we also have a help center forum for program administrator as well as for the student. So if you have any queries like how to add a new cohort, how to invite a student, how to add a student, you can make the use of this help center link, and then you can access all those help articles on Exxat Prism platform. Similar to program administrator, we do have an article for the student as well. So if they are not sure how to complete the timesheet, or let's say how to submit the wish list from their side, they can make the use of all this help article. It is available under help section. And we do have a help videos for your students. So these are recently added playlist of 18 brief student orientation videos. So if your students are visual learner, they can access these videos, and then they can understand how they can complete those specific activities on Exxat Prism platform. So this is all about our today's session. Our next session will be on student compliance module, where you can learn how to manage compliance requirement for your student. So you can find the link for to register for this webinar in a chat box, and this webinar is on next Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. Now let's take a quick pause if you have any final round of questions.
I'm not seeing any more questions. I will just give a minute for anyone to type in.
Mhm.
Can you show how to add a compliance activity?
Yes, so thank you so much for those questions. As I mentioned, our next session, it will be on a student compliance module. So I encourage you to please register for that webinar, and then you can check how, as an program administrator, you can set up the compliance item, and then as a student, how they can respond to those compliance requirements.
There is one question from Cynthia. Is there an inactive file to put students in rather than deleting? So, Cynthia, you can just mark the students as inactive, and that would allow you to mark them as like inactive and not deleted. So there is definitely option to mark them as inactive.
Just a note, if you mark a student as inactive, it does remove their access. But if you mark a student as graduated, it shouldn't.
Um, Also, there is one more question. Can you bulk download a particular compliance document for entire cohort instead of doing it by each student?
We're working on some features to bulk download. At this time, you can only see the statuses, but not bulk download the entirety of the documents.
There's one more question from Rachel. How long after graduation do students have access to their profile? Tanmay, Jessica, if you want to take that up. So Rachel typically, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So typically right now we don't have that timeline to, remove the access from your students once you mark them as a graduate. But we'll check with the product team. I think there is a specific duration after which they won't be able to access the account. But I think for around 75 to 90 days, even after updating student as a graduate, they can still access their profile. So in case if they want to download any documents or if they want to generate the CV using Exxat Prism platform, they can do that.
Yeah, and I'll also add on to that is if there's a special case that you want to have, or is there a different expectation, I would request you to consult with your account managers so that they can suggest what would be best for your university to implement that. Okay, I don't see anything, so thank you all, everyone, for joining in uh, and getting to understand how the student module and workflow works. Please take a short survey after the end of the webinar and let us know your feedback. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great day ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care.